jump into questions.
All right, we've concluded our process of going through the, getting our 2023 Texas Tech Athletic Hall of Fame class and Hall of Honor. As you know already, we've got 8 going in, 7 into the Hall of Fame, and 1 into the Hall of Honor. And for y'all that don't know, the Hall of Fame is for former athletes that have played at Texas Tech. The Hall of Honor is for former coaches, administrators, people that were an influence on Texas Tech athletics from a coaching or administration standpoint. People that have gone into the Hall of Honor are Spike Dykes, Corky Oglesby, Tommy McVeigh, those type of people have gone into the Hall of Honor, and that's what Coach Leach is going into, is the Hall of Honor. The rest of them are going into the Hall of Fame. A little bit about how this process works. This process is strictly nominated by former players, coaches, trainers, and managers. It is voted on by former players, coaches, trainers, and managers, and that's how the process works. There is a committee involved that just works through the process to make everything's on the up and up, and everything's good. One thing that the committee does do is they will make sure that from a historic perspective that we don't forget about a player, say like Greg Lowry, who played in the early 70s, or a Kathy Carlson, women's tennis player here that played in the mid to late 80s. So we have a part of the committee that deals with the historical part of it too, that maybe that's just the way the process works. But again, this is voted on, nominated and voted on by former players, coaches, managers, and trainers. So there. That's pretty good, wasn't it? Anybody got a question?
If I remember last year, I think you mentioned that you expect the Hall of Fame to start seeing more of those guys that graduated in early 2000s, late 2010s. You have a couple right now too. What's that say to seeing people exceed like that and be able to get in the Hall of Fame with that quick turnaround? Kind of the opposite of what you just said.
Well, Gonzalo Escobar's he's right on the fringe of, you have to be out 10 years before you're eligible, and he's pretty quickly nominated. But again, I think that goes back to the success of the programs, how our programs are doing now, and we expect that to be more consistent with Coach Kitley's people. Jason Young's a Coach Kitley guy. You got Coach Sands, JoJo, all these, Coach Stone, all these spring sports are doing so well that we expect these Hall of Fame classes to get younger and younger, which is a good thing. But like I mentioned, we will still keep a grasp of those people that played in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s to make sure that we never leave anybody out that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
With Coach Leach being the polarizing figure that he was here at Texas Tech, what went into conversations to finally induct him?
Well, there were no conversations. I mean, he was nominated by somebody, a former player, and he was put on the ballot, and he got 96.9%. The Hall of Honor is just a little bit different. It's voted on just by a yes or no vote, and it requires 90% yes to get into the Hall of Honor, and he was up there. I think it was 96.9 or 97.2. It's really a significant number and a very positive vote for Coach Leach.
You said it was a player that nominated him. Was it multiple guys, or was it just one guy specifically?
I don't know. That's something we don't put out who nominates who, but Coach Leach was nominated. And another thing about, Coach Leach is, no, that's all I'm going to say about that.
How many people were on the Hall of Fame ballot before it got whittled down to the 7 that made it through?
We probably had this year, 60 nominations, 50 to 60 nominations. The ballot had 10 men and 5 women. And we get to that 10. The nomination process of the actual Hall of Fame is where the committee does most of their work. Is we get 60 or 70 nominations. You obviously can't put 60 or 70 names on the ballot, so we whittle that down to a number that's very workable to vote.
Do you guys know who will be representing Leach at the ceremony?
We're still in discussions about that. We've been in touch, obviously, with their family and different people that are involved with Coach Leach, but we'll do something with that at a later date.
Do you think there's any sort of defining or maybe similar characteristic to all these people in this specific class?
I don't know. It's an interesting. It's a very versatile class because, we're starting to get, sports involved. I mean, and let me say this about the committee. We've got 17 people on the committee. Every sport at Texas Tech is represented on this committee. It's just not 8 or 10 guys sitting around deciding who's going to go in. It's a committee. Women's golf, every sport at Texas Tech is represented on this committee.
Y'all put out the video of Cliff getting the phone call and everything. What's it mean to have a guy like that in the hall now?
Well, I think with everything that, happens with Cliff is a very unique story because him being a great player here, then comes here and coaches here, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. And for us to get him back and him still love Texas Tech and want to be part of Texas Tech, and as of right now, he will actually be at the ceremony on that Friday night. So I think it means a lot to Cliff, and it's very sincere and genuine.
You say Cliff's going to be there. Everybody else, have they committed to being there for the ceremony yet?
Yes, we will. It will be. We're still working out some details with certain people, but the plan is just like with Cliff. When he was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, it was hard to get him out here for an event, and so we try to make it. Kevin Curtis last year, we worked it out where the committee, where the Baylor was playing here, so we were actually kind of planned it so we could get him in when he was here. We try to make sure that they are here to induct them. Yes. We've had to work with a bunch of people. Wes Welker, we've worked with a bunch of different people to work with their schedule to get them here.
It's a huge honor to be inducted into this. What is it like to be on this side of it where you get to make that phone call and get to share the news and know that on the other side of the impact that they've made on Texas Tech, that it's paying off on there?
I've been doing this, I think, 10 or 11 years, and one of my most favorite parts of my job is getting to make that phone call. And because I'll never forget it, whatever amount of years I got that phone call, and it's one of the neatest things. And sometimes I'll get Coach Kitley to call one, or I'll get another coach that coached that person to call them, just like Tim Siegel with Escobar. That's Coach Siegel actually called him. So we try to do certain things. I think me and Gio called a few last year. So we have a lot of fun with it. It's a very, very neat deal because the responses you get are really, they touch you most of the time.
What does the Hall of Honor and Hall of Fame mean to you personally?
Well, after being back at Tech and, all through my years of coaching and being away from Tech, I always wanted to come back and do something for Texas Tech for what it had done for me, and getting to do this and be the part of the Hall of Fame and, do this job for 10 or 11 years has been very rewarding and means a lot, really does.